Running through today's slate, starting with Iowa at Purdue. Purdue favored by 10.5. Look, Iowa struggled against the top teams they've played. Of course, asterisk next to that because of what they did at Iowa State, only losing 66-62, but they got ran off the floor at Michigan State and Illinois. They were able to fight back late, but you saw in that first half just as good as Bennett Sturts is and as good as Ben McCullum is and as well coached this team is, um, sometimes it just doesn't seem like a Big Ten roster, especially in the front court. And you're going against arguably the best front court in the nation, one of the top five in Purdue. And, Purdue is third on KenPom. I think that's an accurate ranking. I think they are the third best team in the country right now. Played with their food a little bit. Penn State's been really frisky, right? Like the way they played Michigan and Purdue. They had a hell of a week, even though they're 0-5 in the league. But Purdue is just a friggin' machine, man. Like they were up 15 at halftime against Washington at home against an Iowa team that really just doesn't have the meat in the front court to keep Clough and TKR off the glass, and having Braden Smith's decision making against Iowa's aggressive hedging defense should be all Purdue in this one. I would be surprised if Iowa made that one a game. Moving on, Ole Miss Georgia. Ole Miss has had a really bad year, but they're coming off a nice home win against Missouri, where they actually looked like a basketball team. AJ Storr played pretty well off the bench, had 26. Malik Dia taking it. There's shots. It's those two, or it's the guy who looks like Tyrese Halliburton, Comradine from France. Chris Beard's like experimenting with his lineup, going pretty deep into his bench. Giva was starting earlier. He's not playing really at all. Same with Perry. But Chris Beard's just looking for guys who are going to play hard and get this defense up, because the defense has not been a Chris Beard defense. And offensively, they really only have three guys that create, and they just ride them. Is Ole Miss able to slow this pace of this game down, right? Because they're 301st in tempo. Georgia, obviously one of the fastest teams in the country. I don't think that they can, especially on the road, right? Georgia's been lights out at home. I mean, they've been lights out all year. Their losses are an overtime loss to Clemson, and you lose at Florida. That game was tied when Santo Ciro was ejected for throwing the elbow at Ruben Chinyelu. So I think Georgia completely dictates pace here. They're too good offensively. I don't think Ole Miss can go in there, sit down, and guard well enough. And Georgia's more than happy for AJ Storr, Malik Dia to play iso ball on the road compared to Georgia's beautiful pace, space, 3-point shooting, and generating rim looks. So I think Georgia will cruise. Don't think I'm just gonna say all the favorites though, because we got Illinois Northwestern. I'm actually gonna be at this game tonight. Illinois favored by 8.5, and I think Northwestern could get frisky here. Illinois is obviously the more talented team. Northwestern, you see a lot of red here, a lot of close losses, right? I think they are at the bottom of the country in luck rating, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there they are, down next to beautiful Cincinnati. Um, but yeah, Northwestern rides Nick Martinelli, of course, putting up some ridiculous scoring totals. 34, 28, 26, 32. Gets the free throw line. He's been hitting the three ball better than he ever has. 20 of 38 is pretty ridiculous. One thing that just has been limited with him always is the playmaking. For a guy that, has the ball a lot and demands double teams, just doesn't lead to assists as much as you would like. But anyways, this team is elite at taking care of the ball. Number one turnover percentage, which is a real strength at home in this game in terms of keeping possessions equal with an Illinois team that wants to crash the offensive glass, right? 11th in the country. But look at this. Illinois doesn't force turnovers. That's not their defensive scheme. They'll drop the EV switches off into drop coverage, right? And they're trying to be more aggressive in the gaps and, digging at the ball. But, that's just not what they do. They don't foul. They don't foul and they don't force turnovers. So can you guys see well enough when I highlight? This is what I'm highlighting. Maybe I'll think of a better solution in the future. But anyways, Northwestern was frisky last year against Illinois, beat him in overtime, and just really sat down and guarded in the half court. Kasparas hit 6 threes. A bunch of them were step backs, but Hummerkaus didn't shoot it well. Will Riley, the freshman, didn't shoot it well, and that's what this is going to look like again. Northwestern's going to pack it in and make them beat them from the outside and hit a bunch of threes. I think Northwestern can definitely get frisky, keep this close, especially coming off all these disheartening losses. It'll be a sold-out gym. And like I said, this ability to take care of the basketball should help keep the possessions close. Got a defensive rebound and, got to hit threes. This has not been a good three-point shooting team. But role players play better at home, I would love to see KJ Wyndham and Max Green play more. I think they're good players. I think they need their offense, but like guys like West and Clayton and Reed, they got to shoot the basketball to give Northwestern a chance here. Next up, Vanderbilt, Texas. Those of you who know me know how much I love Vandy. Tough spot though on the road here. Texas has been playing better. Got that big win against Bama on Saturday. On the road, 92-88. It's a Sean Miller team. Shockingly, it's better offensively than it is defensively. Like it's been the case almost every year with Sean. But really leaning into that. This team is elite at getting to the free throw line. They're number one in the country in free throw rate, as is the big guy, Vukatitis, the Florida Atlantic transfer. I mean, look at some of these free throw numbers. He lives at the line. Dalen Swain, Tremont Mark, just downhill, aggressive athletes who, have been around a lot at this point. And Texas is a sneaky team. Lost in non-con to every good team they played outside of NC State. NC State was their only top 250 win until this Alabama game. So that one definitely caught me by surprise. You lost at home to Mississippi State. Let's see if this turns around that Texas season. You got a homestand here against two probably tournament teams. I think Texas A&M might be a tournament team. And not an easy game for Vandy, who, just saw Iowa State go on the road. Obviously, Texas home court isn't Fog Allen, but, these undefeated teams aren't going to be perfect for forever. So we'll see. I think Vandy's got a good chance that they've got they have had a fouling problem. That's been kind of their biggest weakness. If you take a look at this page right here. But they're not as tiny as they were last year. Like you still have McLaughlin, Washington, and Okereke just with some beef in the front court. And then I think a key thing is Vanderbilt's ability to win the turnover battle here on the road. Forcing Texas doesn't force turnovers, and they're pretty good at taking care of the basketball, but like Jordan Pope and Tremont Mark, having Tanner and Duke Miles, obviously would be nice to have Frankie Collins there too, but having them get up underneath and just apply that ball pressure. I think Vandy has traveled well. They hung tight with Memphis. I know Memphis is 8-8, but Memphis played well that game. That's a tough athletic physical defense. I think Vanderbilt can set the terms of this. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they can win the turnover battle and let that three-point shooting take them to a victory. Carolina-Stanford's an interesting one. Stanford is so well coached by Kyle Smith, squeezing every drop of talent out of this roster and really just riding Okori. But what stands out to me is, look, in these 4 ACC games, in the 2 wins, 31-28, right? In the 2 losses, 14 points and 7 points. And 0 of 12 from deep combined in those 2 losses. They just need him to be excellent to win. Like they shouldn't have beaten Virginia Tech. They were down 12 with 2 minutes left. He, of course, hit that dagger. Carolina can throw Seth Trimble at him, which is a, veteran, experienced perimeter defender who can kind of stick with him all game and, throw 2 at him in ball screens, make him be a playmaker. And he obviously can make plays. But, 1 assist against Virginia, right? He's not a guy averaging like 6 assists a game or anything. Like, that'll be key. I will say Boopy Miller did carve up North Carolina when SMU played there. I'll give him credit for being a senior guard and just having other really good guards alongside him and just being a really, Boopy Miller was just lights out this game. And they won 14-27 from deep, right? The thing with Carolina always boils down to Caleb Wilson, Henry Visar being one of the best front courts in the nation, just overwhelming teams with their length, their motors, their talent, and their athleticism. And I think Stanford is going to have a tough time dealing with those two. I always feel weird about betting against Stanford at home because they just always seem to, once I start to write Stanford off, then at home they elevate. So could be sneaky. There's a reason this line is only 3.5, but I have a tough time betting against Carolina with their front court advantage and the fact that if Trimble can do a good job on Okori, it's like, where do you go? I love Benny Geeler, got a lot of range, the shooter, but the front court of Stanford is just a little underwhelming to me. Just not nearly as talented as Carolina. Moving on, don't have a lot to say for Utah, Texas Tech. Texas Tech's favored by 17.5. I think they really get on track offensively after blowing it against Colorado. Obviously held on to win, but man, Utah's got a couple good mid-major transfer guards. They were playing well, and they almost beat BYU. They only lost by 5. Sorry. Um, Played well in this game. Brown and McHenry is a really good backcourt, but just not good enough defensively. Like Toppin, they're outside the top 200 defensively, and Toppin, just playing through Toppin with the shooters around him and Anderson in the pick and roll. Like, good luck. It's just so tough to stop, and I don't think this is the type of game where Toppin gets into foul trouble or Watts gets into foul trouble because of Utah's front court being kind of weak offensively. So should be all Texas Tech there. Let's keep it rolling. One take. South Carolina at Arkansas. South Carolina is the type of team that in this SEC, I don't think they're going to win a road game. I just don't. And Arkansas played their worst game of the season at Auburn. It was one of those games where Coach Cal was like, burn the tape. Like, that's not my team. I don't want to see it. Auburn was absolutely dialed. Keyshawn Hall was cooking. And Arkansas only 9 assists and gave up 20 assists to Auburn. Little interesting note, Carter Knox going against his brother Kobe Knox on South Carolina. But, I mean, South Carolina is going to be like, they're not going to roll over at home. Lost by 12 to Vandy, lost by 5 to Georgia. That was a close game late. But it's just the team's just not that good. Like, Eli Ellis comes off the bench, like, overtime kid, like, he's okay. Mongolian Mike, like, shows you some playmaking upside, but he's okay. Studi's fine. Michi has moments where he's just hitting deep-ass threes and, like, making plays, but I don't need to go on and on about it. Arkansas is so much more talented off this loss. I think they belt to ass. I think they crush them. I think they win by a ton. Like, I just don't think South Carolina's be able to generate shots, and I don't think they can make Arkansas uncomfortable. Should be all Hawks. I said Hawks. I meant Hogs. Nevada, Utah State is next. Utah State has been incredible. They've been the number 1 offense in the country since the calendar turned, so these last 2 weeks. Has their defense been outside the top 200 in that period? Yes, but I think it's just hard for them to be so intense on the defensive end. They're 39th defensively on the season. I think it's just hard for them to, boost those metrics just when they're scoring so easily and playing some of these bad teams. It just hurts those metrics, but man, this offense is beautiful to watch. The gravity of Mason Falsev and MJ Collins just makes them so tough. They go on the road to Boise State, a good defensive team, like a tough Mountain West road game, right? I know Boise State, you see a lot of red on there, but it's not a bad team. They beat Butler, St. Mary's, New Mexico. And they just crushed him. Like, if you look at the win probability chart, they just had him the whole way. Team is just really dialed right now, getting really nice contributions off the bench. I love this freshman, Elamine. By the way, keep him on your radars. But, Nevada's definitely played better. Won, 8 of their last 9. They want to slow the tempo down, take care of the basketball, play a half-court game. It'll be interesting to see if they can do that. 13.5 is definitely rich. I don't feel comfortable fading Utah State when they're playing this well offensively right now, but I think Nevada could, definitely keep that close if they were able to execute their offense. I will say in their when Utah State lost to South Florida, that was South Florida, a team that really pushes the pace, and Utah State only scored 61 points that game. And South Florida, I like South Florida, but they're not like a great defensive team. And like what kind of went wrong? They just didn't really shoot it well. Sometimes it's that simple. Like, well, do they have an off night? But they just generate such great looks. I don't know. I guess I don't really have a strong enough opinion on that one. Arizona State, Arizona. Don't want to spend a lot of time here. Arizona is a pretty flawless basketball team at the moment. They're favored by 21.5. I would be shocked if Arizona State can keep that close. Although Jop on Arizona State is really fun. And Mo Odom's been playing well. I don't want to totally hate on them. They beat Kansas State. Kind of riding those two. 18 from Anthony Johnson. They're just sloppy with the ball. I think Arizona should be able to get stops, run on them, and just get Jop in foul trouble, dominate the Krivas and Pete on the inside. Michigan, Washington. So Washington has a lot of personnel stuff up in the air. Des Claude missed last game because of personal reasons. Like, there were rumors like he missed practice, and that's why he didn't play. And obviously Michigan coming off that first loss of the season, it's obviously hard to react to a team who was beating everybody by 40 and then almost loses to Penn State and then loses at home to Wisconsin. But like, let's also not overreact. Wisconsin needed a God mode performance, right? You get 26-22 out of Boyd and Blackwell, and then your bigs, right? Bielauskas, who wasn't even supposed to start for this team, was supposed to be Austin Rapp, and Nolan Winter go 8 of 14 from deep. That's just ridiculous. And that shooting gravity of the bigs pulls away, Ademara's ability to play drop coverage and man the middle, and just pulls away Michigan's elite rim protection. And can Washington replicate that formula? Yeah, Steinbach can shoot it, but he's only hit 1 3 in his last 4 games, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And that's not really how he wants to play. It's going to be tough to keep him. Obviously, he's probably the best rebounder on the floor. I think he's one of the best rebounders in the country. There's just one of him, and I know Kepnang is, a big body there too. Those two are going to have to stay out of foul trouble, stay on the floor, and compete really hard on the glass. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Washington's positional size, and you're hopefully getting Wesley Yates back. Jacob Ognisevich, I think is how you say his name, who was the player of the year in the A-Sun last year on Lipscomb. He could be coming back, so really don't know what's going to happen until I know who's playing for Washington. But I appreciate their positional size and their athleticism. I just think Michigan is too good. I think they kind of snap out of it. What they were doing was historic. Villanova's a good basketball team. They had no shot. Gonzaga's a really good basketball team. They had no shot. And I don't think this is anything but real. So we'll see, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going against Michigan or doubting them. I still think they're the second best team in the country. I'd put them right behind Arizona still, in my opinion. Duke at Cal, I don't have a ton to say on this one other than that ACC West Coast trip can be sneaky. And Duke has had an issue of they haven't been blowing people out. They should have been. Even Lipscomb, I'm pretty sure they were down at half to Lipscomb, or it was close to half. They were down up 1, but SMU without Boopy, you only won by 7 at home. Louisville, they were down 10 at half. They just haven't consistently been bringing their A game and playing to their ceiling. So, Cal goes on this East Coast road trip, loses to Virginia Tech. Virginia smoked them. I mean, Virginia's becoming an elite basketball team. Returning home, how do they play? They got bailed out versus Notre Dame with Dade Ames getting fouled on the last second 3, becoming a 4-point play, and then you lost to Louisville without Michael Brown by 20. So don't really have much confidence in Cal. I think they're playing better, but I don't think they're a legit bubble team, which they looked at for a second. TCU, BYU. I think TCU could be frisky here. As elite as BYU's been, right? 12th on KenPom, top 20 offense and defense. The big 3 has just been so ridiculously good. It seems like it's this every game where they're combining for 60. And then you've got your specialists, right? Kennard Davis, 3-and-D, and Kebakeda, rim protection, and hit the glass. Abdullah Ahmed, this freshman, has entered the rotation lately. I'm not sure if he just wasn't healthy, but giving them a little rim protection and just some minutes off the bench, which is something that they'd really been missing. Dawson Baker out for the season, and then Morales and Boscovich just have not been good. Anyways, BYU has had the easiest possible schedule to start Big 12 play. They haven't really played anyone since Clemson, and if y'all remember, they were down 20 in that game and needed this unreal comeback from Rob Wright's buzzer beater to win. TCU is frisky, man. They should have won. They beat Baylor at home. Should have won at Kansas. Completely choked that away. And that's a road game where they kind of set the terms, right? And they let their athleticism and their pressure and their, David Punch was elite in that game. They looked really good on the road. They traveled well. I feel like TCU has traveled well under Jamie Dixon. Arizona, they looked like they were going to lose this game by 50, though. Arizona's just so good, but they battled back. They made it somewhat respectable, for sure. And, yeah, I think just the fact that TCU has, 8 or 9 key players and BYU has, 5, where you're really asking for a lot of 3, there's going to be certain teams that are just built where they can kind of tire them out a bit better. And I just think that's BYU's big favorites here. If Richie Saunders and Kennard Davis aren't shooting the cover off the ball, they're not going to blow out TCU at all. And I think TCU has some good athleticism to put on AJ and even just a battle with Kada down low. So I think that's a frisky upset alert. Maybe I'm wrong in BYU. Just keeps it rolling, but they just really haven't been tested. And you haven't played that tough of a Big 12 game yet. You got at Texas Tech coming up, Arizona. It's going to get much harder, but I think this is a sneaky tough game for BYU at home. Those are all the ranked matchups. Let's quickly just make sure in the power leagues I'm not missing anything else. I don't have much to say about Pitt Georgia Tech. I kind of like Pitt's guards. Georgia Tech's such a weird team. I haven't really been watching them lately. Virginia Tech SMU is a good game. Um, SMU healthy, like I mentioned against Duke. The whole team had an illness. It seemed like Boopy doesn't play. Mostly everyone else did. Um, I don't really know. I would expect SMU to be dialed in offensively and just to be too much, but I think Virginia Tech is sneaky better at guarding than they grade out metrically. Like they keep guys in front. They don't really turn you over. They take care of it really well. And getting Toby Lawal back has really helped them on the glass. He's a beast of an athlete. He hasn't put up huge rebounding numbers. Maybe he's still getting his footing, but Virginia Tech's kind of sneaky. Vibes based, I think Virginia Tech could keep that close. But SMU played, back to back. Doesn't get much tougher than that, I guess, at Virginia. But to play Duke and Clemson on the road back to back, to keep it close against Duke without Boopy, and to almost beat Clemson, it's a really good Clemson team. I don't want to completely flip my opinion on SMU because I felt really high on them after they beat Carolina. They just looked so good offensively. They just looked like one of the best backcourts in the country. Maybe we get a paper bag game with Colorado-Cincinnati where Cincinnati fans are protesting Wes Miller. 8.5 is a big number. I love Colorado. Although since Colorado plays a jumbo lineup starting Ranchik, Dak, and Elijah Malone in Cincinnati as Bob Miller and Mustafa Cham, which limits them offensively, but defensively just so much length. I think Cincinnati does match up well with this Colorado team that I like a lot. But, I mean, Cincinnati, you saw them second to last in the country in luck rating. Hard to back them. Kansas State, UCF, I'm never taking Kansas State with any sort of confidence. I would take UCF. I kind of like UCF. Anything in the Big East I'm missing? Butler, Xavier. Xavier's been pushing the tempo. You see the totals at 161. I think they're kind of fun. Butler, this is another year where they've been solid in the non-con, but just Big East play, just can't win games. Their one win was in double overtime against Providence at home. Excuse me. I lean Xavier there. I don't know why I'm burping again. SEC. Auburn, Mizzou is a really good game. I like Mizzou a lot. Ever since Jaden Stone and Trent Pierce came back, their three-point shooting, their perimeter pop just changes everything for Mizzou. So they came back after this Illinois game where they lost by 1 billion points, and they didn't really play anyone. They beat Minnesota at home when Stone was healthy still. But Jaden Stone is really good, and Mark Mitchell causes so many issues. He's just a matchup nightmare, and he's been passing the ball really well lately. What does he have? He had 6 assists last game. Or 7 assists last game, 4-3. They're just so brutal shooting free throws as a team. 66%. In these 3 SEC games, they're shooting under 60%. But look at this. They've been the third best SEC team they've been the third best defense in SEC play in this small sample size. Like, that's a great win over Florida at home. And I know Florida didn't shoot it well, whatever. That's a great win over Florida at home. And yet Kentucky kind of blew it down the stretch, but they still really guarded. And they're number 1 effective field goal percentage. Just a really good offensive team. They don't shoot the 3-ball fantastic. I mean, 36% isn't going to jump out at you, but like Jacob Cruz is one of the best shooters in the country. He's shooting 48% from deep. He's a volume shooter. He's got insane range, right? And then Jaden Stone has been 44%. And then my boy Trent Pierce, yes, he's only 5 for 16 since coming back, but to have a dude who's 6'10 and can shoot it like this, and I'm just waiting for that game where he hits 5-6 threes. It's coming. And he's played really hard. He had the tip out on the free throw miss against Kentucky, which gave him that chance to win that game. You lost at Ole Miss. Ole Miss was absolutely desperate for a win. They sat down. They guarded pretty well. They were able to slow the tempo down and get that done. Dennis Gates tightened up the rotation. I would like to see T.O. Barrett play a little bit more. Anyways, now you're returning home off those 2 great wins before that. And Auburn was unreal against Arkansas, as I mentioned when I talked about Arkansas. And Stephen Pearl talked about wanting Todd Pettiford to be more of a playmaker because they don't really have a point guard. They need Pettiford, as great of a scorer as he is. Like, they got Keyshawn Hall. He's 6 points from Pettiford is really low. Only took 9 shots, but those 7 assists are really key. Can Williams, Adams, and Murphy do a good enough job on Mitchell and Phillips and these big Missouri bodies? Missouri just has great positional size as well, like Washington that I mentioned. I don't know. I like Mizzou. I think they get this done at home. I just don't think Auburn's good enough defensively to stop a team that's really tough to guard. Like, I think this is a top 20-ish offense when they have everyone healthy. They're just sloppy with the ball, and they can't hit free throws. That's the issue. So at home, I think those things can hopefully be cleaned up. And then Kentucky LSU, if Deion Thomas, LSU is dust without Deion Thomas. So no Jaden Quaytons and Jalen Lowe. It doesn't really matter. That's what the situation was with Kentucky before. And at least they played well last game against Mississippi State. They finally looked like a well-coached basketball team. I know you're leaving Rupp now, but I think Kentucky goes and beats LSU with or without Thomas. But without Thomas, I don't think it'll be close. And then let me check the Big Ten real quick. Oh, go UCLA, bounce back. I like UCLA. Obviously, I know a lot about college basketball. It's hard to have thoughts on every single game. I'm trying to catch up on as much film as I can watch. But that's everything that was stored in my head from today's slate. Let me know if you watch this. I'm going to add chapters in to make it easier to navigate game by game. But I'll do this again if like three to five people comment. So make some noise. Let me know. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the hoops.